The story is the quarterback market once again. As we know, there's tons of thirsty teams out there that are looking for a quarterback. And we've got Matthew Stafford. So let me just set the stage for where we're at. Okay, so Matthew Stafford's been given permission from the Rams to go talk with other teams to figure out what his value is. What teams would be willing to pay for him if the Rams were going to trade him and he would get a new deal. So what would that look like? Well, Matthew Stafford's looking for, over $50 million a year. We're talking 2 years, up to $110 million deal. He wants to get paid, right? And
Can he
at 37
get that?
years old, well, you sound like the Rams. And I think that's what is in play here. I think the Rams are sitting there going, okay, we've been paying you a lot of money over the years. Last year it got close, right? Remember we talked about it on the show a lot where things were getting a little dicey between both sides, between Stafford and the Rams with ironing out this deal. They were able to figure it out right in the nick of time, even when other teams were kind of interested in Stafford. The Minnesota Vikings, remember, they were kind of swirling a little, trying to find out what was going on there. But the Rams, they figured it out. They essentially pushed it ahead to where we're at now. And now Matthew wants to be paid. And the Rams are daring him, basically, saying, go see if there's a team out there that is going to pay you the number that you're looking for. Do you think what they're doing is the right way to play this?
I mean, disrespecting a top 5 quarterback like that, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Not sure about their relationship. I know I can imagine that Matthew's a little pissed off about maybe last year not getting the extension done until right after training, or right before training camp, right after training camp, and all that stuff. Like, it just seems that the Rams don't want to pay top dollar for a top guy. Even though he's 37, he can play 3 more good years, maybe 2, let's say 2 more good years. And I think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. So if a guy like, here's where I come from, Dianna. If a guy like Tua and a guy like Trevor Lawrence is making over $50 million a year, why can't Matthew Stafford get paid for being a top 5 quarterback and clearly much better than those 2 guys? So I don't necessarily like the way they're handling it. I think, now you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think right here the Rams have all the leverage, because if you're Matthew Stafford, right, where are you going to go? You're not going to go to some bad team. You're not going to go to the Saints who's in a rebuild. You're not going to go, I know this whole thing about Chad Hall, his brother-in-law, Kelly Stafford's brother, is in the Giants, and he's not going to the Giants. I can't, at least me, I can't imagine that. He's not going to go to the Steelers and play outside. The dude's only played for indoor teams. The only team that makes sense if the Rams don't work is the Vikings. I like the Vikings. He was with Kevin O'Connell for his Super Bowl year. Kevin O'Connell was the OC. And I just can't imagine. I mean, do I think Matthew Stafford's worth 50? Yes. Should he get it? Yes. Will a team pay it? You tell me a team that he wants to go to that's going to pay it. Right? It's the Vikings, the Steelers. I can't imagine the Vikings would do it, and you have J.J. McCarthy sitting behind or ready, waiting in the wings, right? Like, if Kevin O'Connell, here's the thing. If Kevin O'Connell can do what he did last year with Sam Darnold, okay, and everyone on a $10 million deal, you don't think he can do it with J.J. McCarthy? Like, we're not giving him enough credit in this whole situation, too. So it's one of those things where it's just like, what gives? How dug in is Matthew Stafford? How underappreciated does he feel? Only he knows. I mean, it's a crazy situation.
Look, the Giants are desperate, right? We know New York is desperate. And when I say desperate, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are. Okay, the leash is short. That's not us saying it. That's the owner, right? John Mara is very open.
They
and
have
we talked
1
about it
year
on the
to
show.
win.
They have to figure out an answer. And I could see from their perspective why drafting a young quarterback is risky. How do you know what's going to hit? Right? So it's like, okay, well,
you don't.
Let's mortgage the future for a guy like Matthew Stafford. The problem with that is, are they going to be willing to give the Rams what they want in a trade package? And are they going to be willing to pay that kind of money? Right? Are they going to be willing to give a first rounder? Are the Giants...
Is Matthew going to go for a first rounder?
I don't you think that the Rams have to consider it if they can get a first round pick in this? As they're
absolutely. If
build.
the Rams get a first round pick for a guy who is 37, he's declining play, hard to say, but he's got a few more years left, and you start the rebuild and you trust Sean McVay, absolutely. If you get a first round pick, you send him right away. can he get a first round pick? I would imagine like a couple twos, maybe a player swap. I don't know. I mean, a one for Stafford right now seems crazy.
I agree. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to get that kind of compensation and then have that same team give him a deal of 2-1-10.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that's insane. Look. Matthew Stafford wants that. I'm sure. I mean, he doesn't care what the Rams get back. I'm sure, but I just don't see a world where that is the reality. So the buzz, like this, feels big. Because it's Matthew Stafford, it's the Rams. They've won a Super Bowl together. He's such a big part of that organization. But we know that they're moving on from Cooper Kupp. This marriage has seemed rocky for the last 2 seasons. So it's actually not surprising that we're where we're at. But at the same time, I could see this all kind of smoothing out too. Where Matthew goes out, sees that there's no market for him at the price he wants, and the Rams say, all right, we'll bring you back for $40 million. Like, don't you think that's a fair
40?
number?
No. What? Dianna, you're too much front office speak. $40 million is a travesty. If he gets $40 million, I would, at this point, to be completely honest with you from a player's perspective, I would retire. He's already, I think, number 1 or number 2 in the most career earnings in NFL history. This contract would easily put him at number 1. If you're offering $40 million, at some point you got to be like, hold up. Trevor Lawrence is making 53. Tua's making that much money. Dak's making $60 million. I am 10 times better than these. I'm a dog. I'm a warrior. Like, no. Like, it just depends on, I would just feel so disrespected if I was Stafford if they offered me a $40 million deal.
Look, here's what I know. The Rams are comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy will be a free agent. I expect them to sign Jimmy.
You say that so nonchalantly.
Jimmy Garoppolo
They're comfortable with Jimmy G?
This is why Sean McVay gets all the credit that he deserves, because he is like a Kevin O'Connell in terms of give him a quarterback who can run his offense and they can have success. By the way, this is not me. I'm not picking a side here. I'm just telling you how
I don't
it's
agree.
seen.
I know.
Right?
I don't agree with. Yeah, I know you're not. I'm just reacting to like.
I can tell you the Rams
thought,
feel good about Jimmy G. They do, and I don't think this is a leverage play. I don't think this is them daring Matthew to walk.
What has he proven?
Not that they would,
what has Jimmy G proven to the Rams though? That's what like.
They've seen enough from him in the offseason, in practice, to feel comfortable. No, you don't get it, though, because you're getting mad at me that I'm saying Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer.
I'm not mad at you whatsoever.
This isn't me like,
you don't
Jimmy,
make
I'm
the
helping
decision
you out, buddy.
to sign
Like,
Jimmy G back. You don't make that decision. I just can't imagine.
I'm telling you what I know.
To think.
I'm telling you that the Rams feel good about Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? Would they
and I'm
rather
to
Matthew
the Rams
Stafford
feeling good about Jimmy Garoppolo?
The things Matthew Stafford does for this team is it's almost difficult to explain. That's how comfortable Sean
100%.
McVay is with him. It's the way whenever you talk about Sean Payton and Drew Brees, whenever you and I have had those discussions about, there's just the little things that you don't have to explain, that they just know. It's well-oiled. They operate well together. That's the relationship McVay and Stafford have. So this would be a gigantic loss, right? But right now, things are tangy, right? They have got to iron this out if they want to. I mean, they don't have to do anything, I guess, but I have a hard time believing Matthew Stafford's going to get the contract he wants and the Rams are going to get the compensation they want. And maybe he chooses the option that you painted. Maybe he says, you know what? I'm not showing up. Maybe I'll retire.
So if you had a crystal ball, what's happening? Is he back with Rams?
Yeah, I don't think Minnesota is going to dive in on this. Like, to me, I'm with you. Like, I think the best situation for Matthew Stafford is to go to Minnesota and play with Kevin O'Connell. I don't think that's going to happen. So what is that? What's left for? Then the Rams have to consider maybe bringing Aaron Rodgers on, right? Aaron wants to play for Sean McVay. I was just about to
ask you, what about Aaron?
I think that's a potential situation. Why wouldn't that be? That makes sense, right? They can roll with
That's crazy.
They can either bring on Jimmy, Aaron Rodgers. They kind of have their pick here.
You know what I would like to see before we move on? I would
You're
love
so
to
mad.
see.
I
if
feel like
this
you're
whole-
so mad, you quarterback lover. You're so mad that Matthew's not
I
getting
am
paid
a
his worth. And I get
Look,
it.
he's from Dallas. Okay, us Dallas guys got to stick together. Same draft class. Same draft
What do you?
class. I was
All right,
undrafted,
you
but,
asked
yeah.
me. You give me your crystal ball. What do you think?
I just don't think, based on what I was saying, I don't think there's any teams out there that will not. And you hit it. You hit it right on. Not only give up the trade compensation, just say it's 2-2s, just for whatever, and then pay him $100 million. Like that's just a hefty haul for a guy like Matthew Stafford. My thing is, even if, and I know you're at the scouting combine, even if that the Rams re-sign Matthew Stafford, I think the Rams should absolutely go all in on one of these younger quarterbacks, like drafting a guy like
This year.
If I'm absolutely. If I'm a guy like Jackson Dart, who needs a year or two to learn, but has a really high upside and a really high ceiling, the guy from Ole Miss, who I think is going to rocket up boards here in the next month or so, I put him with Sean McVay. Let Sean McVay have a rookie quarterback to sort of group. I think that would make a ton of sense.
Look, if I'm the Rams, I'm just continuing to build through this draft. Maybe get a weapon. Maybe keep adding to the defense, and then wait for the next draft for Arch Manning. That's the quarterback you want to go get.
How are the Rams going to? Rams aren't going to be that bad to be drafting that high.
Well, maybe they're going to
Drew
have
Aller too.
a
is
lot
there,
of picks to
but,
move on
like,
up.
F them picks is what Les needs.
F them picks, baby. F them picks. Apparently, the way I'm reporting this story, I'm like, F Matthew Stafford. That is not how I feel about this.
I don't view that. I'm just reacting to you telling me the news.
Look,
I just can't believe it.
This is getting tons of attention, but I do think this will be one of those stories where we look back on and we may have gone a little crazy on it because we're coming off Super Bowl. You know, just hearing that Matthew Stafford's allowed to talk to other teams. It sounds like an open marriage. Which open marriage works out, right? Like who's like, hey, go do that and come back to me? None, right? So we'll see how they'll be able to figure this out. That's what I'm going to be watching closely is how do you fix this, right? Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.